to repeat our procedure, because all these procedures is a cycle. In this section, we want to know what is internal policies, controls, and procedures should be obeyed to control and mitigate AML risk for getting AML certification. For example, what is access policies, which level of access should be defined, which level of transaction one customer or specific access level should have. Here, we browse sample levels of company. You can add other rows with its related admitted transaction. Here, just we write these ones. And what's about the second one? The second one is about KYC unit that can play its role as an internal section by programmer and developer in isolated system besides main framework, or we can use third party as our KYC unit. Don't forget that the policy of the KYC unit of third party should be matched with ours. This table can show us three main factors. The first one is the personal IDs, name, father name, business name, gender, marital status, and the date of birth, education, and the other ones. But the second one is the information that should be scanned or monitored by the system, like national ID card and last version of our photo and the signature or the fingerprint of the customer. But what's the last one? The last one is about customer asset in his own company and other his stakeholders, or in our framework like Tether bitcoins that he has. If he has some asset in our company or in his company, he should write his name, the address of his company, the role of him at there, and the other ones, the assets that it has, the projects that he has. For example, maybe he is a manager and in some sections, and some assets he has, like links, softwares, devices, and the other ones that can provide some additional information for verifying his history as our customer. To continue the procedure of AML certification, we can see three parts: screening, EDD unit, and risk profiling. What is screening? How to search the history of customer? Is there any list of organization or government unit or site to do it? Yes, here we have sample free sites to discover the history of client, like diligence.com. This site can help us to discover more historical information about our customer. We have some different lists of proven units on first column. And the results of their matches in this column. Here we tested example.com, but what we can do if some gray history found? How can we discover more information? In this time, we define EDD unit as enhanced due diligence for distinguishing long-last history if they are PEP or high risk of client. Who is high risk of client? He is living in critical country with a huge number of abnormal reports on their transaction, like drugs. But what's the fourth part? It's a risk and its options that can be followed in next slides. Fourth edition is about risk and its parts. First one is customer risk. The second one is product service risk. Third one is delivery channel risk. And last one is jurisdiction risk. What are these? Customer risk. Uh, these kinds of risk can be shown the payment and the history of the suspicious behavior of this customer that can be account him in gray list or blacklist. Product and service risk. What's about? Assume that we have web service or mobile app service. For this one, we should test WSTG OWASP, or for this one, MSTG list of OWASP. Can be done to ensure that these kinds of services is secure. But the other ones is API services and network services. We should implement our suitable tests and suitable laboratories to test and ensure that they are working in secure circumstances. And then if we can find some gray points or weak points as DFNBP units, provide our report to give to the FIU unit and uploading them on GoAML site. Delivery channel risk. Maybe you can alter the channel of delivery invaluable thing to customer's account. For example, he might have selling stone and he wants to receive check as its value, and you as a service provider may provide unusual way to receive and delivery. So in this time, you should predict which way can be ordered by client. And how can you calculate the risk of this way? By considering all its related parameters, like the time of transaction, the location, the history of dealers, and so on. But if you don't want alter defined channel, or you don't have alternative way, you can put it away empty. Last part of risk, jurisdiction risk, is the calculation of geographical and international list of black region and countries or companies or individual person. This risk is considered while we have a critical big company with sensitive transaction and incomparable budget. Usually they have many branches and wide various activities in financial network. What's the meaning of STR? And why should we submit it in GoAML site? When we gather some transaction that is unusual or with no economic purpose, for example gambling, or appears illegal activities to someone who are sanctions or living in sanctioned location, or it cannot obey the rule, and it can be accounted as ML risk. So what we can do by this report, we should submit it without any delay and provide much information to FIU center and auditors to expose our researches. And to discover the submission and to expose the results, we should have ticketing system. In ticketing system, we can register all the transaction, the features, and the final reports of the SCR, and then tip off the person who is reported. Is SCR the only report can we submit in GoAML site? No, of course not. We have various different reports to submit in GoAML site. Besides SCR that is related to the transaction, suspicious transaction of the customer, we can report the suspicious activity of this customer as SAR report in GoAML site. And how about countries? This one is about customer, but if we discover the suspicious transaction or high risk tradition about countries, regions, or the cities, we can report it as HRC. And their activity, if their activity is in high risk level of the transaction, we can report it as HRCA. But what about dealers who has metals and invaluable stones? Maybe their transaction is exceed of 55,000 AED. So this is unacceptable or unpredictable for our policies. We can report it as DPMSR report. And what about FFR? FFR is providing to the services which are prohibited and is related to the transaction person who wants to omit the rules, the laws, and follow the illegal activities. PNMR is the reported about potential matches with the transaction list of the person, per person, transaction of the suspicious countries or illegal trading like drugs. And the last one is RER. This activity is about the lawyer agencies selling and purchasing about their invaluable things that above average of their history of transaction. Last step in taking AML certification is about keeping our records. How can we gather it? Where can we save it? How can we maintain it safely? And how long should be saved? In our documentary, recommended us to save it for 5 years because this long history can ensure us that our discovery is reliable and can be applied to many other aims and the root of the customer's intentions. And then, please repeat all per year steps continuously as a permanent cycle.